But it's not even off by like a,
Not even number.
yeah.
You can't attribute it to daylight saving time. That's in the common.
Yeah, we'll blame it on the earthquake. Yeah.
That earthquake is pretty exciting.
Welcome, everyone. You mind? Does it feel like we're really far apart? I showered this week. I'm just kidding. Okay. You mind if I get casual and take off my jacket?
I can't tell you how many times I was admonished when I first started for having my jacket on. So I listened, got rid of the jacket.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here. It is good to be back in person. And hopefully we're back in person for a while. I think one of our last ones where we met in person, I started off with a question, and maybe some of you remember the question. Who runs the world?
In my house, it's my wife.
Paul's house is his wife. Lawyers, right? Lawyers run the world. So the lawyers say whenever we have a meeting where we have it also streamed, I have to let everybody know this meeting is being recorded and streamed into the other residents' apartments. So thank you for joining us from home, those of you that are joining us from home, and thank you for those that are joining us in person for joining us here in person. It's been a little while since we've been together in person, and I wanted to, thank you. We wanted to have Paul Macri actually join us today for our community chat, and he may be joining us in future community chats as well. Paul Macri, as most of you know, if not everybody knows, is our new Director of Dining Services. So welcome, Paul, to the community and to our community chat. Do you got a microphone? Do you want to just take a minute or two and introduce yourself to everyone here? I'm sure you've introduced yourself. You're tired of introducing yourself.
Oh no,
but
I don't mind a bit. It's again a pleasure to see all of you. Many familiar faces. Thank you so much for joining today and letting me join you. One of my mandates when coming into communities is developing a line of communication for all of you directly to me, and that's something that I think is very important in a community where this is your home. This is your home, and we are your family, and you are our family, and we want to be sure that your needs are being met, and that the things that you're looking for us to do are things that we are identifying as possible. And if they seem not possible, then we want to find a way to make them possible, whether it's in variety or timing or any of the details that go along with the food and beverage operation here at the Terraces. So again, thank you for inviting me into your discussion. It is an open forum, and I get an earful from plenty of folks. But that's why I have two of them. I have 2 ears, so I can take in a lot of information. Some of you will know me as a yes guy. I like to say yes. I like to move things forward. If the answer is no, there's probably going to be a really good reason behind it. But I'm a yes guy. So my goal is to make things possible here at the Terraces. So thanks again. And I look forward to I'm sure, a lively discussion.
Thanks, Paul. Mr. Hyde.
Yeah, and Mr. Hyde, it is a good point. And, you know, with our current water crises and such, the staff has been more sensitive to just the willy-nilly distribution of water. But you know, the other side of it is we want to give every opportunity for people to be hydrated. Hydration at every age is important. I turned 57 in November, and I'm starting to recognize now the value of staying well hydrated, and my body seems to work a little better when I'm hydrated. So, but yes, that's a very good point. And our servers have received training on that. We do it on an ongoing basis. You bet. Thank you, sir.
All right, let's keep going with dining stuff because
Yeah, keep it coming because I like I said, I have 2 ears.
Do we have? And actually, I'll pass the microphone around that way. It's easier for those here and at home to hear.
I'm disturbed about the waste of food. I ask for a half portion often and we'll get enough for 3 people, both in the dining room and when I carry out.
Yes, Ms. Brophy, that was actually one of the first things that I adjusted with the kitchen staff, was this idea that why are we giving so much food at a time? And the new chef John Chow, and I have had many conversations about that. As I saw the portions in the window today, they looked perfectly adequate and sized correctly. The idea of half portions, really that's a communication with our servers. I'll circle back and visit with them and make sure that they're understanding how in full count in the POS system to instruct the kitchen as to when a smaller portion is desired, whether it's a half or indeed, yeah. And you know, sometimes the carry out, the problem there is our desire to make that great big box not look empty. I agree. It's changing the mindset, and we are working with them on that. But thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, back to troublemaker again. This is have to do with the rollover points that at the end of the measurement period. Of course, you can only roll over so many points, and I would like to see the points that can't be rolled over applied as a credit to our bill on a $1 per point basis, our monthly bill. That would encourage better food out of the dining room, because we eat more food and we use up more points.
Issues of points, I'm going to have to defer to my executive director on that. I don't, as he runs out the door. No, yeah, that's a little bit out of my purview. Yeah, indeed, yes, sir, and that's an excellent point.
It's really funny to me when I hear an opinion and I think because I felt like the amount of food we get on carry out is much smaller than what we get in the dining room. Except for the scampi, I asked for extra noodles and it overflowed. I had it for 2 or 3 meals.
I hope there was no extra charge for that.
No. I think the food's been great. And I managed, what did I have last night? The Parmesan, the eggplant Parmesan. It was delicious. I finished it all. I didn't think it was too much. I'm very happy with the food. I'm not saying I didn't toss some lettuce today from the shrimp salad. We ate them today. It was a lot of lettuce,
Right, but
a lot of shrimp, which was really good. And I'm very happy. You get my emails.
I
I'm
do,
Angela.
yes.
I
Yes,
send
ma'am.
you emails on what I like and what I don't.
Absolutely.
I want chocolate cake with chocolate frosting.
yes, and
This
and
thick
covered in
frosting
chocolate
on
frosting.
top.
Yes,
And not tipped over in the container.
yes.
And leg of lamb.
Leg of lamb.
I'm waiting for leg of
We're
lamb.
seeing, yes, ma'am, we are seeing
All
that
right,
coming
that's
back.
it.
Absolutely.
I think that's it.
Duly noted. And
I
to-
want,
and to that end, if I could just finish out my thanks for that. I hope everybody knows, anybody who's talked to me for any period of time knows that the good stuff is good. The bad stuff is more important to me because I can, that's areas where we need to improve. I'm always looking for ways for us to do better. The positive encouragement keeps the staff moving along, keeps them coming back in every day and doing a great job for you all. But absolutely, anytime something, Ms. Brophy, anytime something is not right, bring it to my attention. If it's too big, too small, whatever the case may be, Mr. Hyde, all of you have been wonderful, wonderfully warm and forthcoming with these areas where you see opportunities for us to improve, because nothing is ever going to be precisely perfect. But I don't let the good be the enemy of the great, as they say. I'm a 10% improvement type person. I told Bradley this in one of our first interviews. It's that, I believe if we can make 10% improvement every day, then in 10 days we're 100% better. So we're always looking to move that needle forward wherever possible. Sometimes that needle slips backwards, but we're moving it forward every chance that we can. Thank you.
and I second the request for chocolate on chocolate cake.
That
Sounds
does not go
delicious.
unnoticed with me.
So I'd like to address the dining room temperature. There are some seats in that dining room where one absolutely freezes. And I noticed that the thermostat is normally set at 69. I know the wait staff is moving around, particularly Charles, but it seems like maybe there's some temperature a little warmer than 69 that would be comfortable for everyone. You've probably heard this before.
Indeed, I have, and one of the strategies for fixing that is a buildings and grounds issue. When the renovation was done in the dining room, I don't know if anybody remembers, at the registers where the air comes out, there were baffles that would throw the air up and disperse it more evenly through the room. And after the renovation, those baffles were gone. So Vincent is currently out of pocket on PTO. Everybody needs a vacation. But when he comes back, he's got a list with me, and that's one of the items on that list. We've gotten a few other things done, but that certainly was noticed by me when I first came back, and residents have made me aware of that as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And also, Vincent's back today, actually. Yeah,
Fantastic. So
he's been digging through probably that list and other lists, catching up since he was out for a little while. But yeah, Vincent's back now. What else? Ms. Roth. That's good. I'm getting my steps in.
Yeah.
When we had a home, we had a problem like that. And there were some plastic covers that we bought that pushed the air up, and
Precisely.
that was a big help.
Precisely. That's the ones that were in, that's what was in the dining room before. And after the renovation, they were taken out, but not replaced. So we're moving us back to that, yeah, as quick as we can.
All right, Ms. Lusk.
There's a lot of food that is sent back, not because it's bad, but just because it's been too much for us to eat. Do you compost?
Composting is a thing that Compass Group, my company, encourages in every unit. Every city has their own list of requirements for composting facilities. The city of Los Gatos is very specific about where and how a composting system is in place for a variety of reasons. Composting systems have to be sanitary. They have to not attract vermin and pests and that sort of stuff. So we haven't yet discovered that perfect mousetrap for how to compost. So at this point in time, we haven't been. It is an action item on my list of things to find a way to make that happen. One of the things that we do, though, that I think is very important is that we track waste very, very closely, production waste specifically. So what we produce are the things that we use, and what we buy is what we produce. So we can kind of control our amount of waste by proper purchasing and making sure that we're not being wasteful in our purchasing procedures. But yes, composting is it is an action item on my list, and it's one of those things that there's a lot of work behind the scenes. You have to have the companies to come. Eco is one of them that come and pick that up, and it would have to be a daily pickup, because if it sits too long, then obviously we have a myriad of other problems that go along with that. So we don't want to bring a problem in to solve another problem. We want to make sure that we want to make a win-win-win type situation. But that's a very good point. Thank you, Ms. Lusk.
Two things. The Residents Council of the Human Good Residents Council has a new committee called Environmental and Sustainability. So I'm sure you're going to be hearing about that from them. Also, in our compost, I noticed a big black plastic bag. And I was wondering, shouldn't it be a compostable bag that is in that bin?
So good question. Our waste pickup company that processes the compost from outside the residence apartments, they have indicated to us that as long as it's in a bag, it's okay. Because what they'll do is when they pick it up and they process it, they'll just rip it out of the plastic bags. So we've explored having compostable plastic bags, and there's two challenges to that. One of them, to be frank, is a cost concern, but more significantly, it's an availability concern. We simply haven't been able to find a consistent vendor that would be able to provide the size of compostable plastic bags that we would need for the compost rooms out of the apartments. Michelle.
I've purchased both the small compostable bags, which I keep in a covered container that I put scraps in, like peels from fruit and so on and so forth. And also when we deliver or pick up to our apartments, then I can put the rest of the composting in there. But I also buy the large trash bags that go into my under the counter kitchen sink trash, because I figure if it goes into the trash, at least that portion of it will compost eventually. So when the housekeepers come and they want to give me a plastic bag in there, I hand them one of mine. And so that's how I solve that problem. But the housekeeping needs to educate the staff there on what to put into the compost. They know now from mine that my trash, even though it's in a green bag, still goes down the chute, and the other goes into the compost.
Thank you for that. And we'll work with our housekeeping team to provide some additional education as needed. We'll go over to Ganila and then we'll head over to the other side.
They don't need to be in plastic bags. They can be in paper bags, and you can get big, strong paper bags.
Yes, that's an option as well. Thank you. Okay, here, I'll come back to you in just a minute. I'll run over here to Ms. Squire.
Lunardi's has little rolls of compostable bags, kind they used to give out here, and you can buy them anytime in Lunardi's.
Good to know. Okay, we'll come back over here. This is good for me. I need to do this more often.
I can see your waste going down as you come across. As I recall, there is a pending state law to keep organic waste out of the landfill. And so the compost demand is going to get pretty heavy pretty soon.
Yeah, and it's being rolled out on sort of a county by county basis, from what I'm aware. And I don't think it's actually, I'm not sure what the timeline is statewide, but yes, it is something that I think we've made some good progress, but we definitely need to button up our systems a little bit, not only to be compliant with the pending laws, but just because obviously it's the right thing to do. There's another hand over here, Ms. Benjamin.
I would love to compost, but I can't get those doors open.
Okay, so if anyone didn't hear, Ms. Benjamin said, I would love to compost, but I can't get those doors open. And so for anyone who's not aware, what Ms. Benjamin is referring to is all the doors from both the compost rooms as well as the regular refuse rooms out in the apartments. We are trying to figure out a way to install automatic closers and openers on the refuse rooms doors. We were getting ready to move forward, and then the fire marshal decided to step in and make life complicated. And so where we're at right now is the last communication we received is that we need to draw up and submit plans to the town of Los Gatos for every single door that we would put an automatic opener or closure on. I hear the groans and I feel the groans myself. We're trying to figure out a way to not have to do that because one, it would take, I mean, who knows how long it would take. And two, I mean, we'd be looking at somewhere between probably $30,000 and $40,000 per door. So anyways, we know it's an issue, and so we're exploring, okay, maybe we can just add a couple here and there. But it is an issue that we're aware of and that we're trying to find a solution to. We'll go over here and then over Ganilla.
I think there are doors, opener systems that only operate if you apply some pressure to the door. So it's not automatic. It means if you come up and start pushing on it, then it will take over and open it. Would that be a solution to the non-automatic situation? Because it requires manipulation of a person who's trying to get the door open, and then it takes over and opens it.
Yeah, the issue, and I to be honest, I'm not totally aware of all of the details, but my understanding is, and I'll look into this a little further, is anything that would create any sort of mechanical adjustments to the doors themselves would have to go through that same process. But I don't know if that's been looked at specifically, so I'll bring it up with those that are working on that.
I know that another CCRC during the COVID time just had people to put the waste at a certain time or a time slot outside the doors, and it was picked up by the people from, in principle, the people who deliver the food to them then. But if we had, say that you can put it outside and you could even supply some special containers for it, then you wouldn't have to build lots of new doors. And it would help the people not to have to carry heavy stuff long distance neither. I have found with the compostable bags that if I don't hold underneath them when I carry them to the, they will break on the way.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. And actually, Vincent and I met a few weeks ago talking about this issue. And that's one of the ideas that we were discussing, you know, is there a way to eliminate, maybe not eliminate the use of the refuse rooms altogether, but eliminate the dependence on the refuse rooms? And we hadn't really figured out a good way to handle that where we would be confident we'd be able to execute it successfully. And we talked about, okay, what if we just got rid of the refuse rooms and created some kind of a schedule, just like, you know, a lot of us have at home or in your homes before the terraces. You know, there's certain days that are trash days and you got to leave your trash outside. We thought about doing something along those lines. The reality of staffing and labor that would require, not really set up to do that right now, but we need to continue to do some sort of outside the box or outside the refuse room thinking to try to resolve that. Thanks.
I would say about 3 or 4 months ago, I could be a little bit longer than that. I had put my recycle container out on my stoop with the idea of taking it down. And when the gentleman came by, he picked it up and put it in the recycle. And sometimes I'll catch them as they're going by because I haven't gotten down there yet. But it can be done that way where when they're on their way down to the refuse, if we can train people to put their stuff out, that would keep them from having to go down there. And I'd be glad to take your compost down, Louise. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'm glad that there have been occasions where someone's been able to take it down for you. What we don't want to do now is just encourage people to leave it out because we don't have a consistent system or. Yeah. All right, Ms. Squire. And Ms. Benjamin, remember to reach out to Ms. Papanasta. She said she'd pick up your compost for you.
I think you should be aware of what you actually have. On the 3rd floor trash room in the M building, they have a thing right out the door that says push here. It will open the door automatically. It'll leave it open for a couple minutes and then it will close. They have another one inside. Push here to open the door to go out. It works beautifully. It works all the time. And you can get in and out. I can get in and out with my chair and get things. And we already have it. And I don't know why we don't have it everywhere.
Yeah, you are one of the lucky winners who is close to one of the refuse rooms with automatic doors. We put a couple in sort of under the radar last year or the year before, I don't know, a little while ago. And yeah, then when we started working on plans to do the rest, that's when the fire marshal decided to intervene. But hopefully we'll be able to find a resolution soon. Ms. Lusk.
This is a door question, but it's kind of getting away from the composting time. There is an automatic door opener on this. I think it's the north end coming in on the side. Why can there not be one on the other side? I speak from experience because hopefully someday it's going to rain again, and that's the way we come in.
Thank you for bringing that up. Is the fire marshal listening? I don't think so. We are currently, we may be installing an automatic door opener on that door in the not too distant future. Just don't tell anyone from the town of Los Gatos. I'm watching. No, yeah, that one is super important, especially as weather starts to change and hopefully, as you said, it starts raining again. We hope to have one installed there soon, and that would just be kind of under the radar. What else? Oh, yes, Ms. Wheaton.
I noticed that when David Hyde asked his first question about our points left over at the end of the month, and you exited the door with no response, I'm going to bring you an alternate suggestion for the leftover points, since they can't be, I assume, not credited back at the end of the month to us. Could it be possible that those could be credited to the foundation? And the residents then could get credit for a donation to the foundation?
That's a good question. And okay, I won't skip away from the topic anymore. But so, I mean, this is a complicated question, because when we talk about dining points, we think of them as dollars. And the reality is they're not really dollars. It's a mechanism that we use to create a way to provide some sort of a system, so that residents all have access to the meals that they may need or want throughout the month. And so when there are leftover points, it's not like they're just leftover dollars that sit in a bank and they go to John Cochran's pocket or Paul's bank account or my paychecks.
And that's truly a shame, by the way.
I mean, if they were, we'd make sure the food was terrible, then nobody would use any points.
I would not do that in a moment.
And so it's really, there's not a way to, at least that I'm aware of, or that we've been able to find, sort of translate those points into dollars that could be used towards the foundation, or some have suggested is there a way to, use those points towards the employee appreciation fund. And unfortunately, it's just not set up in a way, they're not dollars. But what I think, I mean, and actually just before this meeting, Paul and I were talking about this, I think there can be some alternate solutions to finding more creative ways that points could be utilized. There could be some opportunity there. And some of the other things we're looking at is the rollover point system. Is there a way that we can do that better? Is that a benefit, or would it be more beneficial to, one of the requests that we occasionally get is, can I get some kind of a credit or put my points on hold when I'm going to be away from the community for 2 weeks? Or, I was in the health center for 2 weeks, or I was in the hospital, or, we went out of town for a month. And so there may be some opportunity there to find a way to make it a little more fair, I guess, or not feel like points are being wasted. So Paul and I will be working through some of those possibilities. But as far as translating them into dollars to the foundation or anywhere else, it's not something that at least I'm aware of there's a way to do that. I'd love it, and I know the foundation would love it as well. Ronnie will figure it out. All right. Go see Ronnie. He'll figure it out.
Change the subject. I'm sorry. I just returned from the Human Good meeting from Tuesday to this morning. And I just want to say how appreciative I am for what Human Good was able to do for the 86 tenants that used to live in Grand Lake Gardens. As John has said in his report that maybe some of you have read, it was a devastating day, but it was also very fortunate that no lives were lost. And all of the tenants were placed in some type of comparable housing. So 31 of them are at Piedmont Gardens now because they were contract residents. And many of them went to family and friends, and a lot of them went to hotels. But I think there's only 5 left in the hotel, and they expect them to be placed sometime this week. So they utilized a lot of nearby communities to house those people. And they brought one of the executive directors from the East Coast who oversaw all of it, and including our financial people and our lawyers. So they did a wonderful job.
Thank you, Ms. Roth.
Another suggestion, I think we all miss the farmer's market when they're not open in the wintertime. And some of the things we missed are the baked goods that you sell. Would it be possible to have a bakery sale once a week or twice a month or something? And just have the wines and the oils and that kind of thing that are non-perishable and bakery items?
That actually is a very, very good suggestion. And what we would look to do then is in that format, we would move it from outside to inside to create a more stable environment in which to present that. So we're not at the mercy of Mother Nature so much. Yeah, that's an excellent suggestion. Again, we don't have a full capacity for doing a wide variety of baked goods, but I do have connections with the Manresa Bakery in Los Gatos, a number of other local, La Boulangère, a couple of other local bakeries, where we could offer a pretty substantial presentation. And what we would do with that, and this is the way we do with the farmers markets as well, is whatever isn't purchased at a farmer's market as far as produce is concerned gets rotated into our existing production. So that's why it was always seasonal and of the sort like that. But yeah, that's an excellent suggestion, and we will I'll visit with Sherry and see what our possibilities there are, where we have opportunities to do that. And of course we would have wine for sale out there and other things too. Yeah.
I don't know if you clearly haven't been here for very long, Paul. Nobody likes wine here at the terraces.
I have noticed that is not a subject that comes up very often. I understand that as well, yes. And the adjustment of those structures is ongoing.
All right, what else is on your mind? I asked you, but now I'm going to chime in. Thank you for completing your resident experience surveys. We really, 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 really appreciate it. Some of you have heard, I think we talked about the last state of the business, and maybe in other forums as well. We recently completed our team member experience survey, and as a leadership team, we are going through the action planning process in response to those team member experience surveys. And we had a meeting with our leadership team, let's see, 2 days ago. And as I was preparing for that meeting, I was thinking about everything that we have gone through over the past 2.5, nearly 3 years now. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. These last couple of years, they've been kind of hard, right? They've been hard for everybody. And they've been hard on you. They've been hard on our team members. They've been hard on your families. They've been hard on me. And there have been, very few things that have gotten me really, really excited in the last 3 years. I don't get super excited when we have a COVID outbreak. I don't get super excited when we have to close down the dining room or all of these other terrible things that we've had to go through over the last 3 years. But this action planning process from the team member experience survey has really gotten me energized and really gotten me excited. And because there's just clear cut things that goals that we are setting and that we are creating pathways to achieve those goals. And that's exciting and that's motivating and that's a really positive thing for us as a community. And so the resident experience survey, I'm really looking forward to going through that same process based on all of your feedback. So if you haven't had a chance to do so already, please share your feedback through the resident experience surveys. Thank you to the residents that have volunteered their time outside the dining room and in the Galleria last week, helping others to complete the surveys. I can't express enough how important and how helpful that is for us. So thank you for completing them. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for sharing your positive feedback and more importantly, the constructive feedback of what we can and we need to do a little bit better. So thank you for that. After the surveys are done, it will take us a few weeks to compile all of the results, and then we get a report back of all of the results. And then from there, what we'll do is we'll put together a presentation where we will share the results back to the community. And then the timeline of things with our team member experience survey, and we'll probably follow a similar timeline, is once we get that summary out with the surveys, with the responses from the surveys, it'll be about a 2 to 3, 60 to 90 day process of putting together action plans and then sharing sort of a summary, an overview of the action plans out to the community. So we'll do the same thing with the resident surveys. Once we have our action plans in place, we'll get those shared. And then over time throughout the year, we'll be creating opportunities for us to check in with residents to see how we're doing with our action plans, seeing if they're working well, seeing how we need to adjust. What else? Yeah, don't look at the clock. It is, I don't know if it is, but it will be after the meeting. So nobody look at the clock. It's totally wrong. Let's see, what else is, everyone have their Halloween costumes figured out?
Thank you. Take this off. Yeah, to mention about COVID, and maybe think about, since I haven't been here in past winters, I understand obviously with COVID, we track numbers, and when numbers get too high, activities get restricted. Have we done the same thing for influenza in the past?
So if anyone didn't hear, the question was, as we're entering winter season and in flu season, do we handle flu outbreaks in a similar fashion as we do COVID? And the best answer is sort of. And maybe the reality is, over the past several years, we haven't had to the same degree. We have policies in place regarding outbreaks of every kind imaginable, influenza being one of them. The guidelines and the sort of public health guidelines regarding a influenza outbreak have historically been less stringent as the public health guidelines for COVID outbreaks. And so for example, in the higher levels of living, we'll say in the health center and skilled nursing, one positive COVID case puts us into outbreak category. Whereas I don't know off the top of my head, but I want to say it's 3, or has been in years past, it was 3 or more cases of influenza would be considered an outbreak. And so in the health center, actually, I'm not sure. I was going to say in the health center in years past, we have had to implement sort of outbreak protocols based on influenza, but I not to my recollection, we've had to do so in other areas of the community. It'll be interesting to see if there are changes in the public health guidelines regarding influenza or other infectious illnesses. But yeah, we haven't had to, but we've been prepared to do so, if that makes sense. Good question. Yes. Well, they can't hear you at home though. So
Oh, that's right.
It's helpful, yeah.
I was just wondering, when do you think the dining room will be open for friends and relatives? That's fine. That's why I'm keeping mine.
So that's a really good question. And public health guidelines now don't give us any direction on how to handle friends and family or visitors in dining rooms. We made the decision when we reopened the dining room this couple of days ago that for now we're going to hold off on allowing outside friends and families into the dining room. We could change that today if we wanted to, but we haven't decided that we want to quite yet. We have been gathering feedback from lots of residents have approached me. I'm sure they've approached Paul. It's a topic that we have had conversations with the dining committee about what's the best way to handle it. We will at some point, obviously, get to a point where I think everyone feels much more comfortable having visiting friends and family into the dining room. What we just want to do now is avoid at all costs having to shut down again. And so we have to look at everything that we do in the context of what does it do to our risk level for exposure. Obviously, just being in the dining room, the residents being in the dining room is one thing that it creates an elevated risk because people take off their masks, obviously, to eat. Or more people in the dining room at one time for a relatively extended period of time. And so that's obviously a risk that's elevated. Once we bring in outside visiting friends and family, obviously that risk gets elevated even further. So we don't know. What we want to do, like I said, is we want to avoid having to shut down, especially as we get towards the holidays. I mean, one thing that's in the back of, I think, all of our minds is, you know, we don't want to have to shut down activities and dining going into December with everything that we have planned for the month of December. So I don't know, but it is something that we're sort of actively evaluating. Ms. Papanastas.
This last outbreak, if I'm not mistaken, had something to do with a bus trip. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I'm wondering, do you track who was on that bus, who they ended up eating with? Did those people get it? Because I haven't been on any bus trips and I haven't gotten it. And yet I can't do anything because other people have gotten it and shut us down. And I just wonder, is any tracking going on to find out what we can do? Was it outside people when they did come in? Did somebody get it in the dining room from visitors? Or was it, because they're doing temperatures? I don't know that they're testing it all when they come into the dining room. Maybe they should be tested before they come into the dining room. Visitors, I mean.
So all very good questions, and all that don't really have simple answers. It's sort of a never-ending question of when did somebody get COVID and who did they get it from? The reality is we've been trying for 2.5, 3 years to figure out how to track that. And we just don't have the resources to know exactly where every case came from and how it spread. I can tell you there's been a lot of conversation about bus trips. There was a bus trip where I think within a few days after the bus trip, there were 2 or 3 residents that were on one of the bus trips that tested positive. And so but we also had 15 or 16 other residents that also tested positive sort of in the same time frame. And so, we don't know definitively, but we do know that something like a bus trip is something that elevates the risk, right? Just like, having visitors into the dining room or just being in the dining room as residents, it increases the risk. So we don't really know definitively. It's really, at least in our setting with our resources, it's virtually impossible to know where every case started and who they impacted. But what we do is once somebody does test positive, our team works hard to figure out, okay, who, to the best of their recollection, what had been in close contact with them during their potentially infectious period. And so then we can test them and advise them on protocol. I don't know if that answers the question. Yeah, I mean, could we test everyone before they get on the bus? Yes, I mean, we could. Yeah, I mean, it may not show up. And what's been really weird recently is what we're seeing is a lot of people are visibly becoming sick, but not actually testing positive for several days after they've been symptomatic. And I don't know that I'm not smart enough to understand why that's the case. But that anecdotally, at least within our community and my own personal experience and what I've heard from others, that seems to be the case. So testing although it could provide some value, wouldn't necessarily be a surefire way to make sure that nobody is sick. Mr. Strand.
Just a question that came up at lunch today. How many of us in the independent living have gotten the bivalent COVID vaccine? It seems to work.
I don't know. I don't know the exact number, but if memory serves me correctly, at the booster clinic that was held, the first bivalent booster clinic that was held at the end of September, I want to say there were 156, 158 residents that received the updated bivalent booster there. The clinic that we held a week ago, for those that missed it, I want to say there were just over a dozen. But then we also had individual sort of separately residents in the Grove and the Lodge were able to receive the bivalent boosters. So quite a few, a fairly significant percentage of the residents have, as far as we're aware of. Yeah, thank you for that. So I don't know if we have an exact count that includes everyone, that may have gotten it in alternate locations, but for those that have received it here, what would that be? Roughly 75% or so. We got 4 minutes. What else? Anyone have any good news they want to share about anything? Anything at all? Anything exciting going on in your lives? Oh yeah, Shell, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Cindy has a recovery cafe that she works with, and she says that they could use knitted or crocheted or purchased hats. So some of us are knitting them, some of us are crocheting them, some of us are buying them online. And she's going to give us a timeline. I think it's November 5th to December 1st or something like that, where she's going to collect them. And we'll have a box out near the concierge desk to put them in. And then she will distribute them in early December.
A question for Shell. Will you have the pattern for knitting those available for those who want to contribute?
So for those of you at home that didn't hear, Shell has a pattern that she's using to knit hats, and it's actually Margaret McCartney's pattern, so it's a very good one. So if anyone's interested, reach out to Shell and she'll leave that pattern for you. And thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, as you mentioned, Cindy is involved with the Recovery Cafe, which is a great organization in San Jose that serves many people that are dealing with challenges of homelessness and addiction and other challenges. And we are happy to support however we can. The Recovery Cafe and this drive for hats. So if you have hats, if you want to purchase hats or make hats, the first few weeks of November. There'll be a box available by the concierge desk. And actually, I failed to mention it earlier. Ms. Roth mentioned Grand Lake Gardens. For those of you who may not be aware, Grand Lake Gardens is one of our communities up in Oakland. There's two communities in Oakland, Piedmont Gardens, which is a larger life plan community like the Terraces of Los Gatos, and the Grand Lake Gardens is a smaller, primarily independent living community, little over 80 residents, and they had a fire about a week, was it 2 weeks ago now? 2 weeks ago, October 14th. And actually I had a conversation with Cindy this morning, and several of the spiritual care directors from throughout the organization. They've been reaching out individually to all of their residents from Grand Lake Gardens that have been moved to alternate locations. And Cindy was just letting me know that that's been a great experience to be able to reach out and just have conversations and lend a listening ear to hear some of the challenges and struggles that they're going through. But as Ms. Roth said, it's great that everyone is doing well, and everyone's been relocated to safe places, most of them to permanent, or at least permanent for now, places. And we're glad that there are no serious injuries or casualties, obviously. But our hearts are with them up in Oakland. Any other final thoughts, questions?
In case of fire, staying in place was the thing that prevented any injuries. Closing your doors and using wet towels underneath the doors also saves a lot from smoke damage.
Thank you. And on that note, have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate you.